Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this panel discussion where we are supposed to discuss about the future trends of natural gas market, both short term and long term. My name is Timo Parta, and I'm working for the Finnish Energy Authority, and I have the pleasure to function as the moderator for this panel. We have here in the panel Jurga Siliskaite-Vensloviene, whom you already heard talk about the Klaipeda LNG terminal situation. Then we have Vytautas Ruolia, who is a commercial director of Ambergrid, the Lithuanian gas TSO. Then we have Margus Kasik, CFO of Eesti Gas and the member of the board of Eesti Gas. The just to provide you a background about what is happening here, the processes that are happening here in this Finnish Baltic market area is that we got the FinEst-Lat tariff area live on the 1st of January 2020. We have ongoing discussions to expand that activity or deepen that activity into a common balancing zone as well. And likewise, we have ongoing discussions with Lithuania whether Lithuania could join this three-country market area that we have at this time. And that is actually something where the Commission has taken an active role. The European Commission has helped us in providing a roadmap towards the deeper merger of the markets. We have had some problems related to Baltic Connector because of the insufficient capacity in Baltic Connector, but they are about to be removed, those problems. I mean, the capacity has already increased due to the inauguration of the Puiatu compressor station, and the Paldiski compressor station should be inaugurated still during this year. To reach the full capacity Baltic Connector, we still need the inauguration of the compressors in Inčukalns underground storage, because that would then provide the full chain of capacities from storage into Finland. Then additionally, the gas interconnector Poland-Lithuania is under construction, and that would be then completed about in a year's time. So which will then end the isolation of this corner of the world and connect Finland and Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania to the interconnected European gas network. Then what will then happen regarding connection to Poland, that's still somewhat unclear, but kind of I hope that we will hear something about those plans during this panel discussion. There are kind of short-term issues that we should talk about. Primarily, the gas demand doesn't grow too much. It's either stable or going down. And the decarbonization is obviously causing a lot of headaches for the gas market. We need to kind of include a lot of biogas injection into the system. We need to replace some of the gas by hydrogen. We perhaps need to kind of refurbish some of the natural gas pipelines to carry entirely hydrogen and so forth. Then how does that then impact the functionality of the network? That will be one of the key questions for the future. And then on the longer run, we need to kind of make clear for ourselves what will be the overall role of gas in the kind of energy system for this part of the world. What role will gases play? Because electrification is obviously a process that is a strong one. It's impacting all the markets in the area. But what role will gas play in that to be seen picture? Wind generation will have, like we already discussed about that early in this forum. But wind generation has to be coupled with the electrolyzers. They will probably have to be coupled with kind of synthetic fuel production, so that parts of the liquid fuels that we are seeing today will be then replaced by hydrogen-based so-called e-fuels. Then will liquid biogas be an issue here in the game? I don't know, but we shall see, and that's something that I would like to discuss with the panelists today. So to start the discussion, I would like to ask the panelists. Obviously, Jyrki already gave a presentation, but Vytautas and Margus, could you elaborate a little bit that how do you see the situation developing here in the area? How would you describe the market in 2030, 2035, 2050? And what do you see as important issues that could help us to take us there? So if we then continue into the discussion. So Vytautas, would you like to start and describe how you see the situation by 2030, 2035, 2050, and what is required to take us there?
Okay, thank you for the word. So it was really nice opening slides, setting the scene for this discussion. And it was already mentioned there that, well, the GIPL is expected, the interconnection with Poland in early 22, and it will be one of the key changes in this near term. And we all expect that there will be changes for this traditional gas, and for the trading, of course, the Polish market players will step into this region markets, and the local market players from Lithuania and other countries also will try their luck in Polish market, and already right now starting the preparatory steps. Also, it's a question how much for Polish needs the infrastructure the major infrastructure in Baltic states will be used. So mainly LNG terminal, in Inčukalns underground gas storage, and of course for transiting gas, the pipelines in between. One might not expect, but there will be also a quite important impact of GIPL from the very beginning for green gases. And specifically, right now, without physical interconnection with the rest of EU, we cannot have a trading of guarantees of origin or these green gas certificates with the rest of EU, with acknowledgement for the transport needs. So this features which are needed to implement a certain national quotas in one country or another, they require that there would be physically in one gas network any of the country. So even though the guarantees of origin, they are transferred via just trade operations, there is no physical transport of gas required, although GIPL will be needed for that. So from first part of 2022, that will be available. The concrete date is not set from where the commissioning of GIPL will end up. The original plan was for the end of 21. However, due to current progress of construction, mainly in Polish side, where major part of GIPL will be laid down. So we'll see on which month concretely in the first part of next year it will be commissioned. Then the other important change and the area for gases, it is the use for transport sector. And here really there will be the transition from almost no use of biomethane and green gases in transport right now. And in this region, well, there is already, how to say, the leading country is the Estonia probably, but still, if you look as a percentage of all consumption of fuels, it does not make a big part. So it will be ever increasing from now on. And for example, in Lithuania, we've got the Alternative Fuel Act approved in March this year, which from next year on establishes the framework and certain requirements, new requirements for liquid and gas biofuels, Specifically to have biomethane in gas fuel, the requirement will be with a certain quota starting from 2025. However, from the 2022, there will be a system of exchange of accounting units of renewable biofuels. And so that means that if anyone fills up a tank with the biomethane in any of the filling stations, but through guarantee of origin system and later on this accounting system, it goes on into the pool of biofuels and can be traded for liquid biofuels. And if it is from right one's raw materials, it is treated as advanced biofuel. It has a multiplier of 2. So there is really a certain business case for biomethane starting from 2022 to be in this transport sector as one of the preferred fuels with a certain commercial value attached as well. And we have witnessed it, activation of the interest in biomethane production because of these transport-related developments. And already right now, as a gas TSO, Ambergrid has a double-digit request to connect to issue the conditions for connection to transmission system. And to connect to transmission system, it also gives an idea about the size of potential facilities. And half of that came in spring this year. So really, the interest is increasing. One, of course, much of the factors comes from increasing CO2 price, possibility to participate in this emission trading scheme or offset the CO2 emissions by buying this green gas certificates of guarantees of origin. There's really a mess with the titles in this area. And so that will be in upcoming years big changes. And the third kid in the block, of course, it's hydrogen, but it's quite nascent stage yet, analysis, new partnership, and so on. So there will be a long journey towards 2030 and other years with the hydrogen. But then it will transition. In upcoming years, it is clear from this traditional gas, there will be transition to hydrogen-based part of economy. And our pipelines, or they will have blends with hydrogen, or they will be accustomed for pure hydrogen. So that's clear. And
thank you, Vytautas. Kind of, if we go forward and open the floor for Margus, so please, the floor is yours.
Hello, just to perhaps give a few words from my side as well. If we look at 2030, which is not that far away, then I think one thing that is quite certain that the market area of Finland and the Baltics is well integrated by that time, works well, and all the sort of, from consumption point of view, from market rules of point of view, or from important assets point of view, like storage or LNG terminal, it all works as one integrated system. So that's definitely a good news, I think. Also, by that time, already now, but by that time, definitely more, is the issue about decarbonization of gas network. So we most likely by that time are in a point where hydrogen is also mixed into the natural gas lines. I don't think so that in 10 years' time we are substituting methane totally with hydrogen. That probably is not the case in 10 years' time, maybe in 20, 30 years' time, but not in 10 years' time. I can't believe it. But mixing is I think, quite probable. that we already have biomethane in our networks, at least Estonian networks, and so theoretically in all our networks, and in Finland to some extent, I think also there is biomethane in the networks, but it will be definitely more widespread, and I'm very glad to hear that probably the next bigger breakthrough will be in Lithuania, and all in all, the volumes of biomethane will increase significantly, although they still, of course, will fall quite short compared to the consumption of methane in total. And the third topic, I think, if we look at 2030 horizon, one thing that at least market participants or consumers need to take into account, or have to take into account, is, I think, taxes, either in form of carbon tax or some other tax, excise taxes. But I suspect that the taxes is something that will be used to encourage the economy to turn towards more green, and that effectively, of course, means slightly higher or not so slightly higher bills for consumers. So that's also what I expect. So I expect the energy will cost more in 10 years' time, not less.
Okay, thank you, Margus. Then Jurgita, how do you see the role of liquefied biogas? Could you provide services to throughput that sort of quantities as well? Obviously, the product itself will remain the same. It's a methane molecule, and whether it has a biological origin or kind of whether it's coming from the gas field somewhere, the product is the same. But kind of are you able of kind of dealing with kind of smaller quantities? Because I would assume that the liquefied biogas is delivered not in large ocean-going LNG vessels, but smaller vessels. Can you deal with that?
Yes, that's a very good question. For sure, all the infrastructure, gas infrastructure, that means that LNG infrastructure as well, it is 100% ready to handle biogas, biomethane. But of course, the spec has to meet the transmission system requirements and the LNG terminal requirements as well. So the spec has to be the same, like at least more than 90% of methane has to be in that biogas that would be delivered to the terminal. And from the current trends in the market is usually what we see, that 100% biomethane, or let's say biogas, in a liquefied form is usually not the case, still not the case that it will be used. And usually it is only a certain percentage that the clients are willing to have, let's say 10%, 5%, 30%. Of course, it can grow up in the future, and we hope that it will be growing in the future up to 100. So for us, from technological side, there are no restrictions. From accountancy side, there are no restrictions. We do provide, and we can provide the services to do accountancy for both products, for fossil LNG and for renewable biomethane. So we as a terminal, we are ready to provide these services. And what we are happy about is that this interest is definitely increasing. And currently, because of the interest from the market, we are also investigating opportunities to provide service of liquefaction, meaning that the companies that are planning, as Vytautas mentioned, there is huge interest to provide biomethane to the transmission system and to participate in the origin system, in the origin certificate system. And also, in order not to build new liquefaction plants somewhere which would not be efficient. There is already experience in Europe that LNG terminals are providing on the accountancy basis the service for liquefaction. So the clients can inject somewhere in the transmission system and arrive to LNG terminal to take the liquefied form of methane. So this is something that we are also investigating, and we are planning in the future to provide such services as well. So we are, which will provide opportunity to provide LNG with bio shear for bunkering and other services. But besides the biomethane topic, for me it is very exciting to talk in general about natural gas as an enabler for all the renewables and for all the means for decarbonization. Because for me, it's the natural gas network and natural gas itself, it is like a sponge, if we can call it, because it can, as I mentioned, as we just talked, it can absorb biomethane up to 100. It can be friends with synthetic methane that can be produced from renewable hydrogen with CO2 from air direct capture. It can also and will be providing services for hydrogen blends in the transmission system. So it's like sponge definitely working. And on the other hand, what I like a lot is that on the transition towards hydrogen economy, we see everybody that it will be some time in place, as Margus said, probably in some 20 or 30 years. So what I like that towards that direction, natural gas currently is the main source to produce hydrogen. And with carbon capture technology, it can provide energy which is decarbonized, but carbon capture can also decarbonize not only the hydrogen production, but in general, heat production, electricity production. So on the way, while all the countries will be developing renewable electricity, we are, with natural gas, the infrastructure that we have, we are able to support this transition and be part of it, a significant part. So it's for me, it's like a sponge.
Thank you. That was an interesting way of describing the natural gas as a sponge, kind of. And I must say that kind of there's a lot of value in that comparison, because that's a good allegory, and kind of I will definitely use that if you permit.
Yeah, sure.
Then let's talk about infrastructure. Okay, I know that the time is running and we don't have too much time left of this panel discussion, but let's talk about infrastructure. So how do you see that we could possibly develop hydrogen networks that would run parallel to natural gas networks, and then perhaps the mutual role of hydrogen vis-a-vis natural gas or biogas could then shift later on down the road? But kind of I would think that in the beginning we need to have two parallel systems. We have pure hydrogen, we have hydrogen injected into the gas, and how would then the transition take place? Would you like to start, Margus, from that?
Well, it's a very good question. I think there are a lot of scientists pondering on that idea. What is the best solution? I would think that building a completely separate network in full amount is kind of expensive exercise. I really can't imagine it being sort of economic to reach with completely new hydrogen network to every business or every home that currently has a natural gas connection. So I rather think that it either still starts with bigger sort of main pipes, having then perhaps a second line for hydrogen and starting up on a larger scale. But having a sort of a distribution network for hydrogen, I don't know if that is feasible, at least in the near term. Of course, you can start building a large pipe. Well, we have this a lot of pipes built for GIPL or for Balticconnector, and definitely the experience is there, and we can build a second one for hydrogen. So not a problem as such. But the question is whether this cost will be prohibitive or not. And from sort of Baltic market, which is relatively small market point of view, I struggle currently to see that it can be feasible financially.
The plans that the European kind of gas TSOs Association, ENTSO-G, published a few weeks back, they are really bold, and they include this hydrogen backbone system for Europe that covers basically all Europe, and it's a huge pipeline system. So how realistic do you see that without us?
In longer term, quite realistic, and for this region, it depends quite a lot as well how the export capabilities of hydrogen will be built up in this region. And there are definitely opportunities, because high consumption needs are in these northwestern Europe countries, which are highly industrialized and need this green hydrogen a lot. And lots of area to produce green electricity and then convert to hydrogen in this region. So that, and it's in further decades to see whether we should, apart from GIPL, have HIPL and also a customer other pipelines starting from Finland, and also as Margus mentioned, really, in transition phase, these parallel pipelines, one could work in some areas for hydrogen, then other for gas. And in Lithuania, for example, really, we have lots of parallel pipelines within our network, and already right now we see what could be the cases of repurposing one of these. But mainly, really, that should be between the big consumers and the production of hydrogen places and small consumers. Well, to repurpose everything might be a big question mark for that. And we should not forget that biomethane still will be in the picture with various facilities, and there will be lots of raw materials, organic raw materials for biomethane. So small consumers could rely on this when they need molecules and not electricity. And of course, electricity will step into other areas than it is right now for the use in coming decades. So natural gas or biomethane will be more a niche kind of product. Hydrogen probably will be something of major gas in the future in the pipelines, and then electricity will rule over that.
And Jurgita will probably be happy to kind of build another liquid hydrogen terminal on the side of the LNG terminal.
For sure, as I mentioned in my presentation, until 2044 there will be LNG terminal in Lithuania, but after 2044, in 2045, probably we will be considering and maybe having hydrogen terminal. We never know, because probably the market will be developing just like with LNG as well, but some parts that will be developing, first of all, like off-grid, meaning that small plants for hydrogen will be built. Probably it will be like fueling stations, small off-grid locations for heat production and then power production as well. So, and only afterwards the utilization of the network, of hydrogen network, could be intense, but probably it will be closer to 2050. And as Vytautas mentioned, in parallel, the development is the most rational, because the system of the pipeline for natural gas is very well developed. We have infrastructure in the place, and it will be organically developing.
Okay, thank you. I guess we are basically already exceeding our time, but there's still one issue that I would like to discuss with you, and that's the gas quality. As if a lot of biogas will be injected into the system, that will be based on small producers, kind of landfills, biological kind of sites where you have a lot of biological waste and you convert that into methane. And then if you are then additionally injecting hydrogen into the network, who controls and who can keep an eye on what sort of gas is there in the pipeline? Because obviously different customers have different tolerances vis-a-vis impurities and the chemical composition of the gas. So who will be in charge, especially if we are talking about our 4 countries market, where gas is freely flowing over the national boundaries? Who can manage all that? Who wants to start? Vytautas, is it you as a TSO?
Yeah, that's one of the issues we are dealing with and looking what the solution could be. So there is no clear answer right now. and for for this reason of unclarity, we're also together with the other TSOs in the region, from Finland to Lithuania, we will have a common study on the potential gas quality with the hydrogen in place and how we can accommodate it in our systems. But it seems that the world will be much more complex than it is right now. And now we have quite unified gas quality requirements within the country and even regionally wide. There are some ambitions to have Europe-wide standards, however, very difficult to achieve. However, in the future, with this different transition phases where in each of the country, and also with different injections of gas, most probably there will be some responsibility of operators and some guidelines approved on the legislative part, where you should have to evaluate, so what are the consumers nearby and where the certain gas will flow from injection points, and taking into account that and sensitivities of specific consumers, whether you allow or not certain higher content of hydrogen or certain other off specs from current requirements by biomethane. So that will be a complex world where you have to look at different qualities of gas and look for various decisions for dispatching of gas within a network as well, for sure.
Okay, thank you, Vytautas. Margus, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, a few comments. Well, in Estonia, we already push to the grids the biomethane, and it's of course the question of network operator to establish a standard. Currently, it's easy in Estonia in a way that this small amount of biogas that is produced is actually consumed within a distribution network. It actually don't even get to the main grid, but in the future probably there will be cases where it's part of the main grid and also TSO's grid, and the hydrogen most likely will get into the TSO's grid. But then it's a matter of setting a standard, and those who inject need to fulfill the standard. And as for consumers, let's say most of the consumers still do not buy a molecule; they buy a megawatt hour or kilowatt hour. So that's what they care for. And if they get their kilowatt hour at the price that they agreed, well, they are happy.
All right, Jurgita, you still want to comment on that?
No, for us in the LNG or liquefied biomethane, whatever that would be, spec is very important. Hydrogen probably will not be in place in our blend that we receive because of the temperatures. 100 degrees Celsius is the temperature difference from liquefied hydrogen and liquefied natural gas. So that's why we still don't have any research in place that would show how this would be affecting and etc. So probably anyway there will be methane in LNG terminals, and then only in the grid hydrogen will be blending.
All right. Thank you so much, dear panelists. It's been a really great pleasure for me to kind of to moderate this panel, and I think that at least for me, it's been really kind of challenging and kind of provoking new ideas and new fresh thinking. So thank you so much for this really kind of good panel discussion. So Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much.